Crystal here from Crystal Design. Today we're going to crochet the Ava blanket. We're using Color Made Easy, 247 yards in a ball. It's a number 5 bulky weight yarn and an 8mm hook. Start with a slip knot on your hook. To make a 20-inch square blanket, we'll start with a chain of 44. Once you have 44 chains, skip the first 2, half double crochet in the 3rd chain 2 times. Those skipped chains won't count as a stitch. Now we'll skip 1 chain and place 2 half double crochets in the next chain. Now we'll repeat that. Skip 1 chain, 2 half double crochets in the next, and continue that pattern across until you have 1 chain left. Half double crochet in the last chain. There won't be a skipped stitch between the last pair and the last chain. Turn your work and chain 2. The chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Skip the first half double crochet and place 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. Now skip the next stitch, 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. And keep repeating across. Skip 1 stitch, place 2 half double crochets in the next until 1 stitch left. When you have 1 stitch left, half double crochet in it. Remember, there won't be a skipped stitch in between. Turn your work and continue the 1 row repeat. Chain 2, skip the first half double crochet, 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, skip the next stitch, 2 half double crochets in the next. Keep repeating that pattern across until you have 1 stitch left and half double crochet in the last stitch. Keep repeating for 30 rows or 20 inches. Make 6 squares. Once you have your 6 squares, decide on your layout and line them up, being sure to keep the half double crochet ridges on the right side. When you have your squares lined up, you can fold them in half, making sure again that your ridges line up, and pin the sides or clip them together. Then you can begin sewing. Thread a long piece of yarn through your yarn needle. On the first stitch, you're going to want to lock it, so you'll go back into the same stitch. And then you're just going to use a mattress stitch where you go back and forth, making sure your rows stay lined up. And I'm only picking up 1 loop on the edge stitch here because it's such a chunky yarn. When you're ready to sew the stitch ends of your work together, it's a little bit easier, but I still just get 1 loop, so I'm going down into the middle of the stitch and going back up through the middle of the opposite stitch. And just like On the sides of your work where you line up row for row, you want to line up stitch for stitch. Once you've sewn all your squares together, we'll be ready to add our border. Join your border yarn in any corner. I'd recommend starting in a corner where you can work across stitches first as opposed to the side of your work. Join your yarn with a slip knot and then chain 2. In the same corner, we're going to place 3 half double crochet stitches. Now skip 2 stitches and place 3 half double crochets in the next stitch. Repeat that across. Skip 2 stitches, half double crochet 3 times in the next. When you get to the next corner, you're going to place 3 half double crochets in that corner stitch, and then you're going to turn your work and work into the sides. Along the sides, we're going to use the same pattern, 3 half double crochets in one stitch, but you don't have specific stitch numbers to skip, so you'll have to skip by rows. You can skip 1 row of half double crochet and place 3 half double crochets in the side of the next row. Continue repeating that around, skipping a space and then placing 3 half double crochets. Always place 3 half double crochets in the corner stitch. Once you have crocheted all the way around your blanket, you will join your last cluster of 3 half double crochet stitches to the first one you made with a slip stitch. Cut your yarn and weave in your ends and you are done.